Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful Bushveld early morning sunrise for our devotional today. I hope you're in for a really good day. We've been dealing with the subject of giants, and we looked at the subject, obviously, of David, who faced Goliath. He was a primary giant. And we've read in 2 Samuel 21 that there were 4 other giants, all related to Goliath. You see, giants breed giants. If you have one of them in your life, you must know there's probably a few others lurking in the shadows. But we deal today with the giant called Saph. You'll find his story there in that passage I mentioned. But Saph means fear. Fear. Now, I want to take this seriously because I want to look at this particular giant for a couple of, maybe even 2 weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take, because we live in a fear-filled world, do we not? I know it's fearful, but we are fear-filled at the same time. And for believers as Christians, we need to know that there is a beautiful answer to this thing called fear. And I hope over the next week or so, we'll be able to find the source of our strength in this regard. But Saph means fear. Now, we all know that we live in a fearful generation. We are fearful people. We fear the dark. We fear people. We fear what people will say about us. We fear the past. We fear the future. We kind of are very prone to this thing called fear. And Satan, who is our number one enemy, he knows this primarily. He knows this, that if he can make us fearful, he can control us. Satan would want for us to be slaves to this thing of fear. Just like the Israelites were slaves back there in Egypt, and they were in bondage to the pharaohs of the day, and they lived in fear of their masters. Satan wants us to be in bondage to him through this thing called fear. Now, when we look at fear, we need to look at it from a number of different points of view. The first thing I think about fear is we need to understand it. When you understand something, you're able to address it, and we are fearful because we don't always understand some of the things that we need to understand. When Philistines stood before the Israelites in the story of Goliath, their primary tool was to make them fearful, make the Israelites feel intimidated by them. And does Satan not do this in our lives as well, with the circumstances and the things that happen around us? And he knows that fear not only can make you fearful, and if he can make you fearful, he can control you. He absolutely can. And fear is an incredibly powerful and controlling emotion. We have to master this thing called fear. Fear causes us sometimes to do some rather stupid things. We do irrational things under the covering of fear. We don't realize that actually logic says, and statistics will tell us, that 90% of the things that we fear never really even happen. But still, we continue by human nature to be prone towards fearfulness. Now, fear is, in understanding it, is a root. It's not a fruit. It's not a fruit. Well, I guess it could be in some ways, but for me today, it's a root, because out of the root of fear grows the tree of so many social and personal evils. Out of the root of fear grows anger. Why do we get angry? We get angry because we're fearful that somebody might take something that's ours. We're fearful of somebody standing on our toes and our popularity is being threatened, or our power or our possessions are being taken away from us. So we're prone to anger because we've fallen for the root of fear. And the root of fear can cause so many different things. So many different social evils in the world today are caused as a result of this thing called fear. Have a look at the King Saul. Great example. He had so much potential as a king. He could have been someone really great, but fear was his root. He was angry with David. Why was he angry with David? Because he was fearful that David would take his throne from him. He was angry with David because he was fearful that David's popularity was going to get more than him. He was fearful because he couldn't manage his relationship with people around him. He was totally and completely threatened. And because he was found wanting in this area of fear, the root of fear, he did some of the most irrational and some of the most stupid things that caused ultimately his downfall. So when we look into our own lives, we need to understand that it's into this precise context that God whispers in your ear, do not fear. Apparently, do not fear is a command that is given 365 times in Scripture. It is the most popular command of God. Now, I haven't counted them, but I would like to believe that that would be true. One, do not fear for every year of the year. For every day of the year, sorry. For one, do not fear for every day of the year is something that God gives to you today. And so as we look at this for the next couple of weeks, if you are looking into the face of fearful circumstances, if you're looking into the face of things that you don't know, things that are worrying you, then stick with me, because we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. But for today, just bear in mind that God commands you, do not fear. It's not an option. It's not a suggestion. It's a command, do not fear. And we'll pick up on this again tomorrow. Have a fantastic day, people. And remember, God is with you. Therefore, do not fear. Simple truth. Have a great day. Bye.